Yeah.
Oh, we're live. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Oh, shit.
Yes.
Crazy. I had no idea.
All right. Okay. It's a step forward.
Welcome back to the Then Now Podcast, the best podcast in the land. This episode, we're going to be reviewing DOTA. I think this was DOTA Dragon's Blood or Blood of the Dragon?
Dragon's Blood, yeah.
Dragon's Blood, okay. This is a show that I honestly had no idea even existed until I think Otis dropped the trailer for the second season in the chat like a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, we should do this shit." I was like, "You know what? It looks dope. I'll give it a chance." Huh?
That was only like a week ago.
It felt like bro. It's just been a long week.
He's having a long college student with a job.
Oh god. I'll kind of start on how because I differ from you two in the sense that I watched this back to back. I watched the first and second season back to back. I didn't really have that break in between, so I guess it's a little bit more fresh in my head. And my first two watches of both these seasons was very dope. Netflix has been really good with their animation lately. Like between this and Castlevania, they've done really good work. Like the stories are very captivating. The lore makes pretty good sense. And the character, they make you fall in love with characters. I'm always a big fan of like any story that involves like a person that has like a demon / monster inside of them. Oh, heads up, this is a spoiler review. I'm spoiler free reviews. I'm sorry right now.
Yeah.
This is all spoiler reviews. So if you don't want to watch the spoiler for this show, or you just click off now, come back later, subscribe, share it around, but do it at a later time. But yeah, as far as a spoiler review on this, whenever there's a character that has like a demon inside of them, rather it be like something like Naruto or Bleach, or like the first two things I've seen with that kind of concept inside of them, I love it, bro. Seeing Slyrack and Davion and that kind of dynamic they had, I wish I would have got more of that. Almost, I kind of wanted more of like a Kurama and Naruto kind of thing where they form a relationship more so than just purely symbiotic. But it was dope. I really enjoyed this series altogether. Do you guys remember how you guys felt about the first season at all when you first introduced to the show?
Oh yeah, I definitely enjoyed the first season of DOTA. The first season of DOTA and Dragon's Dogma came out pretty much like back to back on Netflix. So I was just really all comparing like, okay, which one is better?
Yeah, that's like Dragon's Dogma on this show. That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's like I think DOTA won that, but Dragon's Dogma was good.
I watched that one.
I was a little bit more hyped coming into this season than I was for the first one because I didn't really have any expectations on it, but I thoroughly enjoyed that first season. I thought Davion was pretty good. I thought that was his voice was what's his name that does Sasuke? I can't remember.
No. Yeah,
I thought that was him at first voicing him, but learned that it wasn't. But still,
you know who it is that does his voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. The first season was great. Otis and I were going back and forth about how much we enjoyed the first season, and obviously Dragon's Dogma was fun too. But I had no experience with either Dragon's Dogma or DOTA, so I went to both of them really fresh. And as soon as you hit Dragon's Blood or DOTA hits the ground sprinting, like you see old boy fighting, he's fighting against a dragon, and then immediately he becomes fused with Tony Todd. It's like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I was on board from the jump, and also he is voiced by Spider-Man, so it's really cool seeing that happen as well. And I think it was episode 2 or so where he like ends up like stranded in the middle of nowhere, all covered in blood, and you don't know what happens. It's like, oh, he got possessed by a dragon, and actually the dragon tore apart these guys. That's why I was really, really hooked into the show.
Does this make him a were-dragon? Is that what that is?
And that's what it seemed like. It's a cool idea, were-dragon, basically. But
the only reason I would say, I feel like didn't were have the whole pre-concept that like there's a moon or a cosmic thing that's triggering the transformation?
Not necessarily. I mean, that for obviously werewolves, that's the idea. But other creatures that it just means it's essentially two presences sharing one body. Right. So you can transform into other state. And that's kind of what it is.
Technically, the Hulk is like a were giant, I guess.
And you brought up the idea of a character being possessed by somebody. That was also done in another great show that came out, I think, around the same time in Jujutsu Kaisen, where Yuji was possessed. What's that dude's name? The demon that's inside him.
That's Sakuna. S-A-K.
Sakuna,
yeah, Sakuna. Yeah, so it was a kind of bizarrely enough that was a popular theme at the time. They kept doing those kind of things. But I think it's very well done. I in all honesty, I would love to have Tony Todd possessing me, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
Yeah. And I ain't gonna lie, Slyrack is probably the best fire-ass name I've ever heard for a dragon, period. Like, Slyrack is badass. I'm sorry, that's a badass name. Even the way it's spelled out, it just looks badass.
It's up there. Even Davion sounds like a R&B singer with J. Cole.
Jermaine. Yeah. Cole. Yes.
So yeah.
Oh my god.
I think Slyrack, it reminds me of Cyrax from Mortal Kombat.
Exactly what it sounds like.
You saw how that looked in that movie.
Let's not do that.
Why'd you bring that up?
Anyway,
let's move on.
Back to the GOAT, Tony Todd. I feel like he did a really amazing performance in this one. That dude he rarely misses. Like I don't see a lot of movies where he gives a bad performance in. He just does well in a lot of his shit.
Well, usually he's also doing Tony Todd. Like he's like they hire him to be Tony Todd. Like I wonder if he had a script. All those Final Destination movies that he's in. I wonder if he had a script. If he just showed up on set talking about corpses and like, okay, let's keep him on the film.
Like Will Smith or Denzel Washington.
Not even because it's just like they're like popular for their personalities. Him, he just sounds evil all the time. Like I saw an interview with there's like another YouTuber I've seen that interviewed him for the Candyman movie, and they interviewed me like he's like a nice guy.
He's a very nice guy,
but he just sounds like a demon. I'm like, oh my god, your children must. Oh my god,
even when he smiled, because I saw an interview where he's on Collider and he's smiling and having fun and everything. It's like he still just. Like, I don't know what it is. He's a very nice guy, but you still seem sinister. Is it
that Willem Dafoe effect?
Pretty much.
Willem Dafoe just sounds untrustworthy all the time.
He does. He's on cocaine and he's gonna do something to you.
Right.
It sounds possessed like that. There's something in that rasp in his voice. It sounds different.
Right. But first off, the animation's sick. I don't know. Is this the same animation studio that did Castlevania, or is it a different studio?
I think it's a different one. I think it's the same one that did
Voltron.
Oh, is it Voltron?
It did Voltron. It's Studio Mer. Studio Mer did Voltron. That's why the animation looks the same. The characters look the same as that.
Yeah, it looks.
I don't know.
It's like oddly anime-ish style. It's like a combination of like the West and the Eastern style of animation, kind of combined in one. Yeah, because like I'm not. If you call it an anime, I'm not mad at it. But
they do too. Netflix says an original anime series. Right. They specifically say anime. So.
They say it on Castlevania too, and we know
they do on Castlevania.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. I call it an anime if it's like what necessarily do you have to be
in Japan?
Do you have if we get into that?
A few moments later,
like K-rap or J-rap or
it's still rap though.
Tomorrow.
Well, they used to back in the day. They used to call it Japanimation. Do you remember that? Oh, I think it's probably before Charlie's time. They used to call it Japanimation as opposed to anime. It was called
specifically from Japan, because like they don't call Chinese animation anime. They don't call French animation anime. You know what I'm saying?
Eventually.
It's interesting though. That's a discussion we probably got to have.
We're going to talk about season 2 of Dota at some point. I promise you.
Right.
I don't know that we are.
Let's dive into, I guess, the plot of this one. And one thing I really enjoyed with this, especially the second season, their like shock factor moments of the show don't feel cheap to me. Like whenever they have something that's supposed to like surprise you or blow you away, it seems valid. So I guess like the biggest example of this present season was like the reveal of the final boss, I guess, in the dragon/demon type deal. Where like you could, if you were looking to that friend being the demon, I guess you could kind of see that coming. But if me just watching it and not thinking too hard about like trying to predict where the plot was going to go, I didn't see that coming as far as that character being the end all be all demon or evil villain.
But do you think that this had any other shocking moments besides that? Because I didn't.
Yeah.
There was one moment. It's when Princess Miranda got shot out of nowhere. It's like,
Right.
what? So, and the thing was, it wasn't just like a casual shot. It was like, and she shot with this golden arrow, which is now going to completely encase her in like a look like glowing crystal gold, and she's gonna die. It's like, wait, what? Because the thing was, it within, I think it was literally 3 seconds before that, she saw Davian again for the first time, and who knows how long. It seemed like one of those very much like a meet cute moment, and I was sure they were gonna go to cut the credits. That'd be the end of the episode. That'd be the cliffhanger as them seeing each other. But then it kept rolling, and then the air came out of nowhere. It hit her, and that's when the episode ended. I said, "Oh my god!" So that kind of caught me off guard with that one.
I'll give you that, but they kind of made that irrelevant because she survived and she was okay.
One person that was like a surprise, but wasn't at the same time, was what the death of Marcy. Like when she's getting choked out, I'm expecting somebody to come save her. I'm like, Davian's for sure gonna pop up somewhere, or the princess gonna have some kind of ability awakening, like some Super Saiyan shit. But they were like, no, she's dead. She's gonna die. You watched her die slowly, and nobody came to help her.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of
nobody could. Like, who else could have attempted?
Right, but I with a show like that, I feel like I always expected some Deus Ex Machina to pop up and like save her, especially with a character that's like a tier under a main character where she's just there the whole time and she's so important to one of the main characters. I'm like, she's gonna live for sure. She's gotta live. They're like, nope, nigga.
I mean, I did like, it was a great moment. Like, just like damn, she about to watch her die, and there is nothing that no one could do about it because Davian can't do it. Slyrak, that fusion already got put down.
Yeah. They got aced pretty hard. They're all
the Blue Dragon girl that just showed up this season, she got put down already. Like, as soon as I knew the energy that he was bringing, so I was like, oh, sorry,
bro. But what I thought might happen was, because it was, I thought it would be a case of Miranda going full blown Super Saiyan, being like the light, and while she was being choked out, and she'd snap out of it just in time to save Marcy. But instead, they went full blown. They actually went Super Saiyan for real, where you know how that story plays out. Spoiler alert for Super Saiyan and Dragon Ball Z from 30 years ago. Goku doesn't go Super Saiyan for the first time until Krillin dies right in front of him. So they did the same thing with Marcy. She doesn't go Super Saiyan until she watches Marcy die with Marina, until she watches Marcy die right in front of her.
Ain't no Dragon Balls in this show. She gone.
No, there's a whole bunch of, actually, that kind of are. There's a whole bunch of Dragon Souls and dragons, but
no, maybe she'll come back, because I know in the next season they like talked about Slyrak going to hell to fight Terrorblade. Terrorblade. Like spirits are down there, but maybe she's in hell. Maybe she's. I don't know how.
I was expecting the Blue Dragon girl to die. Like, I did not see that coming. It's like, y'all just had y'all romance start to bud a little bit, and then next.
So that was a surprise. That surprised you, didn't? That caught you off guard.
Right. They were on there. Kami got killed shit at the end of this show. Like, new character you're interested in? Oh, they're gone. They're a body.
Yeah, they had no problem killing off new characters.
In a terrible way. Like, they killed off Lena and they showed her body. I'm like, bro, he didn't just kill her. He fucked her up.
Yeah, he splattered her. That shit.
Terribly. I was like, fuck. I
didn't see that coming, because the thing was, she had just ascended to such prominent power, and it seemed like she was in a way the big bad behind the curtain that was kind of masterminding everything. Right. And it turns out, no, there's always a higher, bigger fish, essentially. So I was like, okay, that's well done. You got me there.
What tripped me out is they show, like, they used her as like they used Davian as like a power scaling stick, and it showed you how strong she was. So then when you get to a point to where like homeboy swatting her attacks off, like they're not doing shit to him, I'm like, oh shit, she may die right now. And then when they show her body, like you see like all that blood, I'm like, oh, she died. She didn't just like,
yeah, she's done.
Like, hey, yo.
I think one thing also that there was part of this system, the battle system in this is kind of almost like Pokemon in a way. Like obviously, no matter how powerful the fire breather is, if he goes up against a water-based, odds are he'll lose. Or if you go, the energy he was talking about was void. He was a void energy-based dragon. So I guess void eclipses fire every time. You would have thought that ice would do more. The ice dragon could do more against possibly void, but I guess not. So I guess the void, that particular element of void, is a bit OP. It's harder for anyone to come close to that one.
I'm gonna just get to it. He was a saving grace for this season for me, because the rest of it was kind of mid. Like I was watching it, kind of waiting for things to get exciting, and they didn't to that last episode. Comparatively to the first one, it kind of bored me.
Yeah, the second season wasn't as good as the first, I don't think. The other thing is too, I love the second episode where they were in the castle still fighting, and I could actually watch them use their powers and everything. Like, this is fun. It's actually a lot of fun. And then immediately after that, it was like very slow, weird thing. And the pace of this season seemed like it was slow and then rapid. Like things like didn't happen for a while, then everything happened at once. It's like why are people coming into the fray and then just getting killed off right away? And then why is that now we have these amazing Deus Ex Machinas popping off and then being dismissed immediately. So it almost seemed when I was watching, I was like, did they run out of money, or did Netflix tell them, hey, you gotta shove all this into but you saw what happened. It seemed literally like this second season just ends. It's like, and Marcy's dead. Is she gonna get a funeral? No. But now I guess the goddess, the pink goddess, Celine, what's her name? Celimene. She's back now, and they dismiss her off. Okay, and she just goes off somewhere else. It's like things just happen really, really, really fast at the very end, and kind of just everything's just left on the table, and that's it. Goodbye.
It felt like they were building, like they were building for that reveal to be, I felt, a little bigger at the end, because they were dropping the breadcrumbs of like that device that he needed and the light or whatever. They announced it really early on, slightly, but it didn't really give a lot of information on it. So I felt like they intended on building that up a little bit more.
Exactly.
But then, like you guys said, near like episode 6 or 7, she was like, all right, we ran out of time. We don't have time to keep building. We got to drop
it was episode 6
rapidly. Like even the reveal of the final boss, like that shit felt abrupt and out of nowhere. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Why are we dropping this shit randomly like that?
When Davia walked into the room with the Emperor, and he seemed like he got infuriated, pissed at the Emperor to the point where he's ready to kill him. Like he grabbed him and threw him up into the air and then dropped him and killed him very quickly. Like, I mean, yo, dude, even the Hulk has some self-control. Like, he lost his mind immediately. There wasn't a discussion about it. It could just happen.
Like, it was gone.
Well, is Slyric in control? I thought Slyric was in control that whole time, though. Didn't he say he didn't remember killing that guy? He was just out?
He might be right. I know Slyric was involved, but even Slyric doesn't... It seemed like Slyric was overwhelmingly pissed at the Emperor, more so than you would have thought he would be. And it may have been that he was saying about that Davia was saying about Marina or something like that, but it just seemed quick. It seemed like a lot happened fast.
That one I felt like was just with Slyrac's like dislike of humans in general. Like if literally you're talking to an ant and you're telling this ant to do something, and it's like, I don't know or I can't. You're like, bitch, fuck you. I told you to do something. I view you as something very low on a totem pole in regards to how strong and powerful I am and my status. I'm fucking you up immediately. At least because you see that treatment where like Slyrac and any other, like when he first met Davion, he was like, "Wow, I'll fuck you up if you don't get the fuck out of my face."
But again, going back to
call them like little ant or something.
It calls a mouse. It calls a mouse a lot.
Yeah.
But there are multiple. For example, going back to my favorite episode 2, where they're in that castle. Or episode 1, in fact, where Davion is being essentially tortured as they're removing parts of his body and everything, trying to get more information about this dragon, about Slyrac. Slyrac seems more after Davion gets out of his restraints. Slyrac can come out. Then he can come out anytime he wants, and he's still Davion's still very much in control. And they're in the middle of a big, huge battlefield with countless dragons trying to kill them. So even then, he's still much more docile. That's why it seemed weird that he was able to just like blow up. It wasn't like he was building up, his anger was festering over the time. It's like, no, he seems much more in control in general.
Like after that, when he had that fight with Lena, and Lena commented on how Davion was like lost inside of him somewhere. Like he was kind of like, to me, it was almost like when Naruto gets into like the sixth tail mode or whatever, where he's like fully taken over by Kurama at that point. I feel like it was a similar situation here. Mm-hmm. And then even going into it's Fortail, yeah, I forgot which one it was. But when you that meeting he first had with all the dragons there, like more than half those dragons were immediately like, kill him. The fuck? Like, he's a human, get rid of him. Like, if he's not doing what we want him to do, get the fuck rid of him. And I don't really feel like Slyrac had that like truly docile turn until he needed the humans to fight the Void Dragon. Because up until that point, he's like, I want to do what I want to do, and I'm only going to not kill you until I need you to help me do something. Like that
may be part of it. I guess it would have been nice, again, with the pacing seeming weird. Right. We didn't see Davion this season struggling with the turn or with Slyrac as much as we had in the previous season. If it had been one thing where you saw kind of, you know, in Frodo with the ring and Lord of the Rings, over time you see him getting more and more almost infected with the ring. We weren't seeing Davion with this season with him struggling more and more with Slyrak as he's getting more and more powerful. If it had been one of those things where we saw him kind of, if we saw Davion the whole time struggling to hold back Slyrak over the season, then in season, I think it was episode number 6 or something like that when it happened, when he broke loose and killed the Emperor. If it had popped off that way, it would have made more sense for him to kind of lose his mind and do that. But that didn't happen.
Shit, we didn't see a lot of Davion period this season. I felt like he was there, but I don't really think he had any more development past that first season.
I agree. The first seasons were so much, it was just written better and structured better, I think, than this season was.
I think just the focus moved away from him. Like he was there and he's still the main protagonist, obviously, but I felt like development of like Selemene and the wizard, I can't remember the wizard's name at this point in time.
Oh, Invoker.
Characters they killed off.
Yeah, they just like focused on all those side characters and developing them more, but just like, oh, we did Davion already. We'll get back to him at some point.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll be even worse now, the fact within this season, Slyrak's separated from him altogether now. So I'm like, what is his purpose now in this whole story?
Being a Dragon Knight, is that going to work? Is that going to be enough?
Right, it's for sure not, because he didn't even have the same power as fucking Caden with the fucking, which I ain't gonna lie, that's one of my favorite characters. He's like my top 3.
I know.
This fucking ability was fucking dope. That fucking like rocket jump ability he had in that suit was fire.
You saw it, Otis. You saw that fun episode of what he had.
The animation was
He
cold.
had a double jump.
Yeah,
A super double jump. Yeah,
he really did.
I wouldn't mind like a video game or a prequel series with him, like showing him collecting that suit.
Because his backstory. So again, episode number 2, it showed part of his backstory and how he was like with 30 Dragon Knights went out and only he came back. He was a sole Dragon Knight to come back. It's an amazing story. And then in the episode, they set up in season 1 where he was like maybe the only Dragon Knight ever to actually have slain like 8 different types of dragons or something like that. So he's actually kind of a legendary character. Right. And I love how his catchphrase is just saying fucking. He says fuck before everything he says, like a lot of times. So
I want like a Witcher style prequel they did with Vesemir with him.
Absolutely.
That'd be dope.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Selemene, I don't know why Selemene kind of confuses me as a character, because her motive, I get her motivations as far as the narcissism and wanting to be worshipped, but with her like neglecting her own daughter, but then taking in Marana and treating Marana like a daughter, I'm like, why wouldn't you just do that with your own child that's probably stronger than her? Well,
the rationale was that her daughter, and also in the Invoker's blessing, essentially didn't worship her. She just loved her like a mother, but she didn't worship her like a god. Right. So because of that, and because she couldn't get her daughter to worship her actually like an actual god, it wasn't what she wanted, and she had to kind of turn her back on her. That's what it was.
But then they do that whole retcon thing at the end where they say she technically did, because she got her powers back because her daughter technically did worship her. So I'm like, if that was the case, why wouldn't you feel that worship beforehand?
Again, season 2 has some issues, some problems.
Because in my mind, she's getting the worship like energy, like a spirit bomb type energy coming to her, and you can feel that.
She literally.
Why wouldn't you feel her? Maybe you could say it wasn't a lot, so maybe that's why she didn't feel it. I don't know, but that's a whole different thing.
Again, random Deus Ex Machinas that were just weren't set up or paced well. Because for the most time, you're seeing Selemene kind of walking around with scars on her face, is kind of sulking a little bit, and then out of nowhere, she goes to the grave of her daughter, and then she's spirit bombed with power, goes and sees her ex-worshippers who are like, now like, fuck you weren't there for us, but Marana was, and then she takes off. It's like, what was the point of, where was her journey? What's going on here? So it was disappointing.
I get it. It feels like making the whole thing about humbling her and like trying to get rid of her narcissism in a sense, but she still pretty much has it and kind of it's like she does. Like she needs it to be functional. Like without that narcissism, which I don't know, it could be a good, depending on how they use her in the next season, it could be a really good thing. Like the fact that you need this narcissism in order to function as a productive character.
It's just, I know we've all seen Witcher season 2. Witcher season 2 is all about humbling Yennefer, or part of it was about humbling Yennefer. Whether you like it or not, that was the whole point, and you got it. It's like, yeah, it's clear, I get that. I feel like they were kind of doing something similar with Selemene, but they didn't really show enough of it to matter. And then it ends with her having her power back without any real struggle. So it's like, okay, well, kind of.
Oh no, they fumbled this season. It wasn't horrible.
I agree.
Like I would never call it horrible, but it was just nowhere near as good as the first season.
I will always say it's tough for a second season to follow up because one, you have expectations now versus the first season, and then two, you have an idea of where the story should go versus the first season. So I think it's really tough for any show and any sequel to live up to expectations of the previous one. And then the longer and longer it goes, you get even more expectation versus because you've been with this character for a lot longer. I don't think it was that much more terrible. I think people just had expectations now.
Well, here's what I'll argue with. I disagree.
It was definitely worse.
But yeah,
it was worse.
Here's what I say though. It's kind of what you're saying. If I'm understanding you correctly, Dev, is that you're saying that because we saw season 1 and liked it, we had expectations for season 2, and because we had expectations, it was harder for it to cross that bar for us to like it. Right. But that doesn't excuse not plot holes, but that doesn't excuse rushed pacing or having slow drawn out parts or having character arcs that don't go anywhere or having things that aren't properly set up, no payoffs or so that it doesn't excuse that.
They set up so much, but they paid off virtually nothing. Like
that's the problem.
Right.
Like the payoff was something that wasn't even hinted at. Like we had no idea Void Dragon was coming. Like there was no setup, no mention of it. Like he was just there. And it was like, oh shit. And it was dope. Don't get me wrong. It was excellent. But there was no build up to it. It was just like 0 to 100.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I'm not saying that it's an excuse. More so, I'm saying that these things probably existed in the first season, but you just didn't pay attention or cared because you were giving it a chance. Not even giving it a chance, but like you weren't looking for them as much.
So yeah, the first season does have problems too. I'll give you that. But I think it was sometimes what happens sometimes too. This is one thing that happened with the Matrix, and the Wachowskis have talked about it too. Is how you have so many ideas and you spend so much time putting your whole heart and soul into making something the first time, an exceptionally great product. And you have so much zeal put into that when it's time for them, like, great, that's wonderful. Do it again. You're like, well, I can't. It took me 10 years to do that first season. Then when we do it again in 1 year, I know I can do that. Oftentimes, that's to have a sophomore slump. It's very common for us to have sophomore slump because of that.
Could find a second book to steal that quickly. It just was impossible.
That's actually kind of true.
They weren't expecting the first season to do as well as it was. That's my guess. But as it did, is my guess. And they came in and was like, oh, we thought we were going to be a one and done. Let's make a second season. Fuck it. Instead of like going in with so many seasons planned and then just fine tuning it as your show comes out and then over time. But that's a whole nother conversation too.
I think it's more of the Ethan method where you talk about how just not having enough time, where when you put it in perspective, where they're probably spending maybe like maybe a quarter of the year writing the story. And then after that, you got to get it to animation or get it to artists, then get it to animators and get all the, like this whole exclusive, extensive process has to happen within the course of a year. Then for you to prepare like the rollout. So like you don't have a lot of time as a writer to like iron out all the kinks of something like that, which is it's the gift and the curse. Like the fact you're getting this content on a yearly consistent basis, but it's probably going to get lower and lower in quality because you don't have enough time to actually think about the fucking plan and plot you're going to have.
But what's interesting about that is one of our favorite shows collectively is Castlevania. Castlevania, in my opinion, kind of got better as the seasons went on because the first season was only 4 episodes. They were great. It was brief. It got better as time went on. I don't know if it was a yearly basis. It may have been a little more time between each season, but it seemed like it was progressing and the storytelling was getting better. I know Warren Ellis has all kinds of problems, but fair enough. But his writing seemed to get stronger, and the seasons got longer too. So I don't know. I know that, for example, with one of our favorite shows, also Arcane, it took them 6 years to make that first season. 6 years, but they went into production immediately on season 2, which means that they kind of had the assets set up in place to kind of keep going forward. I imagine Studio Mir, which is a very high class studio, they made Voltron, which is very successful. I'm sure they had those things in place also for season 2 immediately after season 1. So I don't know really what happened behind the scenes to make this season kind of seem so discombobulated in a way.
I can't really excuse it just because like we've seen so many other series and the majority like how many anime got better as they went along. Like
usually they do.
But I mean, they do have the advantage of the fact that they are a manga and then become an anime because like their story's already planned out. But like you fail to plan, you know what I'm saying? Then you plan to fail.
Because that's so almost irresponsible for them not have any kind of it's borderline. I'm gonna say it. It's borderline Star Wars sequels-esque for them to go in having no game plan for. I'm sorry.
You're depressed right now, aren't you?
You plan to fail.
You plan to fail. I apologize. And even though I know this night, since we're ragging on Dota, we don't mean to do it that much. We still enjoyed a lot of assets about it. The animation still looks very crisp. The fight scenes are still amazing. I would say the fight scenes in this season actually a lot of them trump season one's.
Absolutely.
So it's very fluid. That's why it feels like anime. The actual speed at which they're fighting, what they're doing, the characters, the actual nature of the fights themselves, these are hard R-rated encounters too. So I can't. They didn't half-ass that at all. The animation is still top-notch.
My last point, I kind of want to. That's a question I posed to you guys. Do you guys enjoy, or do you guys like the design of Terrorblade at all? Because I feel like his design is missing something. I don't know why.
Interesting question.
Like he just seems very kind of raw.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead. You go first.
No, I was like, it was pretty. Like I didn't hate it, but it was like. It was just there. It wasn't like an impressive design. It wasn't like, oh man, like I want to make a character that looks like that. But I mean, it wasn't bad.
Like I felt like the grandiose and dopeness of his voice acting didn't match like the visual I was seeing.
Yeah,
like
his voice acting was definitely superior to the
his voice acting. We'll get into this in 1 second, but the voice acting is fantastic. But real quick, as far as commenting on his opinion for Terrorblade. His humanoid form, where he had feathers on his arms, kind of standing there. That kind of looked, like a harpy. Looked kind of weird. Didn't quite match. So I don't know about that particular form. If it works for me.
Scoring, let's score.
Oh yeah, the score.
Because we didn't score the first season. I'll give the first season like an 8.5 really quickly. And then for this season, I'll probably give this season like a 7 to 7.5.
There. You can go. I talked too long.
Season 1, I give an 8. This one, I give a 7. It's a 7.
Yeah, I'm right there with y'all. I give it the first season either an 8 or 8.5. I really like the first season a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think I give this season a 7 as well. Yeah, it's because it's still a very beautiful series. It just has some writing problems.
Yeah, like it was junky. It got messed up a little spots, but like it still didn't come out to be a bad series in any way.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. And here's what we have to remember: this too. Again, this is based directly off a video game. Think about other video game adaptations, how shitty they are. This is nowhere near shitty.
Mm-hmm. They've been on their point video game adaptations with Castlevania.
Yeah, Arcane, Castlevania. I mean, they're doing their job.
I think that's their best lane. I think their best content comes from their video game adaptations. Yeah. I can't think of anything better than Arcane and Castlevania on Netflix.
Well, guys, this has been another episode of the Then and Out podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you guys for all the support so far. And we're going to have more content coming for you in the future. Thank you.
And still better than Yasuke and Cannon Busters.